Yep. Okay, sorry for the delay, and thank you for waiting. Let's start our session. First of all, warm greetings to all of our audiences, distinguished guests, experts, and our colleagues. Thank you for joining us here today for our vital sessions on climate change and its multidimensional impact on small-scale fisheries. We are talking about small-scale fisheries today, which is a very important topic. It's a lifeline for millions of people, and it's also vital for our food security, supporting communities and preserving cultural heritage. Yet they face serious threats from climate change, overfishing, and environmental degradation. Now, more than ever, it's a time to take decisive action to protect fisheries and secure our sustainable future. We have a dynamic program lined up today, featuring 3 insightful presentations from Dr. Kotaro Tanaka, from Mr. Rio Ahmad, Professor Amr Hamoda, and Professor Suzanne. And after that, we have an expert panel discussion with Masanori Kobayashi, Dr. Hendra, and Professor Amar and Suzanne. And after that, we'll have open floor question and answer session. Due to the time constraint, I kindly ask our presenters to share their sites concisely. And I encourage our audiences to keep their question brief and short so we can have the rich conversation and more questions from the floor. And feel free to connect to our experts after the session to continue the dialogues and conversation. As we move forward, I would like to invite our first speaker today, Dr. Kotaro Tanaka, who is a research fellow from OPRI SPF. And I would like to request our speaker to introduce themselves about their expertise in their presentation. That's our first presenter. Before that, I would like to invite our honorable senior advisor, Dr. Hendra, from Ministry of Ecology and Marine Resources, Indonesia. Dr. Hendra, please.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good afternoon. We'd like to welcome all of you to the climate change and its multidimensional impact on small-scale fisheries. This is an event that conducted by the Ocean Policy Research Institute of the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, together with Blue Forest Foundation, and also thanks to the Ocean Pavilions. We will hear, as already mentioned by Kumar, that coastal small-scale fisheries are essential for the food security, job creations, and also the cultural preparation, especially in developing nations. And however, they are substantially vulnerable for the various challenges. So that's why today we will have the speakers that will share the experience, information, how the climate change, along with the other anthropogenic factors that will be disrupt the coastal ecosystem and so on. So welcome and enjoy, and look forward to having your feedback for how we address the small-scale fisheries. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Hendra, for your insightful opening remarks. Now, moving forward, I would like to invite our first presenter, Dr. Kotaro Tanaka. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for your introduction, Santosh, and thank you very much for having me in this very critical session and in this beautiful ocean pavilion. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm Kotaro Tanaka. I'm a research fellow of Ocean Policy Research Institute of the Sasakawa Peace Foundation. Today I will be talking about small-scale fisheries, especially about the case study carried out in Indonesia. And here is the presentation flow of my speech, of my talk. So first, I will be introducing the global context of small-scale fishery and why it matters in the terms of climate change as well. And also, I will briefly introduce the case study that we carried out in Indonesia. And then we will introduce current issues in small-scale fisheries and impact of climate change on that. So why small-scale fisheries matters in climate context? Because it produce 37 million tons of annual seafood production, and it is accounting for the 40% of the world fish catch. SSF, small-scale fisheries, matters because it supports almost 500 million people for their livelihood, which is a very big number. And small-scale fisheries matters because 40% of its workforce is supported by women. On top of that, why we are talking about these small-scale fisheries in this COP29? Because small-scale fisheries is highly susceptible of climate change. Because the reason is that it, at least compared to the large-scale commercial fisheries, infrastructure, the technology they are using, equipment, and social support, those are relatively fragile. That lead this susceptibility to the climate change, such as rising sea levels, warming waters, and extreme weather events, which threaten fish stock and fishing conditions. And again, on this project, this presentation, we are focusing on the case study which was carried out in Indonesia. 80% of Indonesian fish catches were originated by small-scale fisheries. More than 2 million people are supported by or are involved in these small-scale fisheries, and which is almost 90% of the proportion in total fishing workforce in Indonesia. And again, it is directly or indirectly impacted by the climate change. In our project, we carried out interview to the local stakeholders, local experts in five locations in Indonesia, from the western part to the eastern part. And to carry out this project, this project cannot be done without the huge support of Blue Forest Foundation, which is our partner. So I would like to shout out thank you to them as well. I don't want to go too academic, but at the same time, I want to have some amount of tangibility, so I will be briefly introduce the output of our project there. So we asked several stakeholders, several local experts involved in different sectors, from academia, local NGO, local government, business person, and so on. And we asked how is the change in fish catch since 2000. So we asked that question to the local expert, and many of them answered the fish catch was decreased since 2000. But interestingly, not only decreased, but in some area there was an increased fish catch report as well. On the perception about climate change effect, we asked the local expert, how do you perceive the effect of climate change into the small-scale fisheries in your area? The answer varied from extreme effect to the low effect, but many of them, or almost most of them, answer like there are big climate change effect to the small-scale fisheries carried out in their local area. In addition to those interview survey, we did a field trip as well. And at the same time, we carried out a workshop gathering several sectors, again, from business person, NGO, local government, and fisher folks working on the ground, and try to figure out what exactly happening at the ground, what is the reality going on the ground. At the same time, what is the policy gap we need to fill, we need to bridge in terms of these small-scale fisheries. So here is the takeaway from that workshop. In terms of the condition and the reality at the local level, we asked about what kind of factor, what kind of local stressor are contributing to the decreasing or changes in small-scale fisheries. And of course, many people mentioned climate change is a big effect, but at the same time, climate change-induced second-hand local stressor was mentioned as well. It varies from lack of public awareness, illegal fishing, marine pollution, and increased demographic and consumption. So we can clearly see the factors varied in very diverse topic, which requires us to think about holistic approach to tackle to this adaptation and mitigation problem in small-scale fisheries. Another thing is the policy gap in terms of these small-scale fisheries. What kind of gap we need to tackle to what kind of gap we need to bridge to move forward this adaptation and mitigation problem. So there was it was reported that there was a conflict over spatial utilization because fisher folks are sort of forced to go farther since no fish are caught in the coastal area. But the legislation, there was a still legislation system need to follow up that current change. So we need to think about how to mitigate, how to correct that gap as well. And there are several other policy gaps, such as lack of law enforcement and too many licenses to permit, and human resource capacity as well. So by introducing this context and our first layer of the findings, I will conclude my session and pass it over to the next presenter. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kotaro. Now, quickly, we'll move to our second presenter, Dr. Rio Ahmad from Blue Forest Foundation, our local partner. Dr. Ahmad, floor is yours now.
Thank you, Santo-san. Hello, everyone. Greeting from afar. I'm Rio Ahmad, Director of Yayasan Hutan Biru, or Blue Forest Foundation, a nonprofit organization that mainstream our organization function as an enabler or pipeline for community empowerment program and coastal ecosystem conservation at the site level, and collaborate with all stakeholders, including coastal community, government, and private sector. The name of our organization, Blue Forest, means the hope that a green and healthy ecosystem will lead to a strong blue earth condition with harmony between humanity and nature. So thank you very much for Sasakau Peace Foundation for this collaboration. Maybe for showing the slides, please. Yes, next, please. Next. Yeah, building community and coastal ecosystem relationship as well in watershed ecosystem is our organization vision. We realized that this by inviting communities and stakeholders to carry out program activities with participatory action research principle to present solution option in addressing natural resource management issues, especially in responding the flow of change in socio-economic and ecological system, so that they can be better managed and have an impact on adaptive ability of the parties to maintain the quality of social economic relation at the site level, which can contribute to improving the ecological quality ecosystem, natural resource, sustainability, sustainable life, climate change that happens globally, and also local pressure in natural resource that can have impact to quality of environment, including in Indonesia in 5 years. And next slide also. In 5 years, in the last five years, there's increase for the number of disaster case in Indonesia. More than 3,000 case happened in the last 5 years, and it's dominated by hydrometeorological disaster, including in coastal area. In addition to climate change, local pressure that occur make the quality of natural resource and habitat decline, impacting the vulnerability of the livelihood of coastal communities and islands in looking fish and other marine or other natural resource. Blue Forest and with our collaboration with stakeholders makes effort to restore mangrove ecosystem with an ecological approach with community and parties to respond to coastal ecosystem degradation and bring back habitats that support biodiversity and the economic of coastal residents. There are several steps that need to comply to do the EMR approach. This approach is called ecological mangrove rehabilitation, which aims to support the natural regeneration of mangroves by prioritizing the handling of disturbance factors that inhibit the natural growth of mangroves, tending to the typology of mangrove degradation in ex-pond or abandoned pond, aquaculture pond area. We encourage hydrological improvement effort to normalize tidal flow in the rehabilitation area. There are 6 stages in this approach that require addressing ecological, social, economic aspect prior to rehabilitation action. For example, what we did, next slide, please. For example, what we did at one of our Blue Forest program in Kuricadi, South Sulawesi, we conduct 10 hectare in mangrove rehabilitation in former pond area. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide again. Next slide, please. This one is what we conduct the EMR to supporting the natural regeneration for mangrove ecosystem in coastal area in South Sulawesi, Indonesia. We do the EMR in the abandoned pond since 2014. After the process building social agreement with community and stakeholders, we carry out the hydrological improvement to restore mangrove in abandoned pond area to supporting ecological needs to the area. Changing occur in 5 years after do the restoration. We open the dike wall and it makes the tidal comes out naturally, and this what happened after we do the restoration in hydrological. In 10 years, it support well growth of mangrove with supporting biodiversity and also economic livelihood for community without planting at all. And this is condition like this is the practice we set in the national and regional level also to set good practice to become a strategic choice in mangrove habitat rehabilitation integrated with aquaculture management, and also how coastal management is not only from a landscape approach but integrated with seascape approach with the management of nearshore marine area. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rio Ahmed-san, for your wonderful presentation. And quickly, we will move to our next presenter, Professor Amar Hamoda from National Institute of Oceanography and Fishery, Egypt. Professor Hamoda, the floor is yours.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for a nice presentation. It's my pleasure to be here with you. And I needed to discuss now what is the situation of small-scale fishing in Africa and what we're looking for. As you know, small-scale fishing, we needed to understand what is the importance of the scale fishing for Africa, because Africa is important, very important. This is significant for all low income, for the people and the labor which were working in the low capital about that. It's very important because this is the main income for these people which don't have a technology, we are use native and primary fishing. Also the fishing and in small scale fishing will be divided in the ocean and sea, and also along the river and reservoir or internal lake. So we can discuss we have three main points as important for the small scale fishing for Africa. As you can say, for the economic, which will be the main resource for the low income people, which about from 30 million or 40 million people now will be rich and will be increased by time because they're related to the low income. And this is about very important for different culture and the different generation which will be needed to sustainable to income, because if they lose this scale of fishing for a small scale, will be people will be leave this and go to another situation in migration or like that. So it is a main point for economic to make this small scale fishing is sustainable and may be very important. The second point of this, because we don't have, Africa has a long area for desert, and we don't have another source of food for animals. So this is another main point for nutrition for the people, and the more feeding for that. And also this is the main resource for education and the nutrition about that. So, and also the amount of the diet of the million people related to low income, low health, low safety. So this is a main source for keep the people to continue to the life and livelihood for that. And also this is a culture for very important to support the culture, especially for the woman. And it would be the woman in Africa using and processing about these fisheries and support the man about that. And also the young generation which will be needed to involve it about to continue this small scale and industry of fisheries. So we can discuss what is the characteristic of small scale fishing. Small scale fishing about Africa, we can divide it in 3 regions. The first region in the north related to the Mediterranean, and this area is a very poor area for income of fisheries. And the second area, it is the eastern side of Indian Ocean and related to the southern, which will be rich in fisheries, and many other industry coming and will be make a collaboration between this area to catch a huge amount of fishes in this area. The third region, which will be extended from Morocco, Mauritania, and Kenya, Tanzania, and will be in the eastern side, which will be has depend about European cooperation with this area, will be the area which highly stock for, especially for blue tuna or like that, which will be working about that. So, but the small scale fishing, which for the people in Africa will be dependent about traveling, will be about trapping or gel net, or also by wiring and make for accumulation along the beach and some wires or like that. So it's a very important by you don't have a technology of catching fish, but this is the main resource of income and may continues for the life. So what's the challenge we have? The first challenge for Africa now, we needed to this income to be sustainable. But the main problem, population increase, number of boat increase, small boat increase, and they needed more food. So the continuous of catching and without control in a small area and overfishing about that will be decrease the income of fish, and also affect about the length of fish and what is the life of fish, because you catch every day, we needed more food, we needed more income, so we needed overfishing will be destroy the stock assessment and the sea. This is the first weak point, will be destroy these small scale fish. The second point about environment degradation, about we have a problem about in Africa, we can, some waste will be solved in outside of the coast, and also related to the plastic and the pollution, and some industry will be destroyed and make a diversity will be migrated from this area. So will be affect also in another channel to destroy what is the stock assessment in near the coast related to the people which we needed that. Additional about that, the social equality about the one play, it is a main resource for support the man, because as you know, the young generation know to go. This is catching fish in small scale is not easy. It needed maybe a small boat, and we needed more looking to more production, and we needed increase the population. All of this making more work, more hard to be more catch. So needed effect about this continuous the youth, young people support the man, and we needed also support for the woman, support the man for processing and solving about that. The also the next the last challenge and the main challenge for that, it is access to the market, because we don't have the technology about the market and the preparing and the processing. So we use a beginner of processing about save the fish and the accumulation of the fish. So will be this is very weak point will be increase the production and will be increased to support about the fish outside. So what we are looking for in that opportunity for sustainable, how can we make a sustainable development about this small scale fish in Africa? The first one, improve fisheries as a management. So we needed to make a protection area. We needed to make a protection area about the coast to save the fishes from destroying, from overfishing. This is needed. And also, what we're looking, we needed to make as a government, which in the weak government, we don't management, how we can awareness about the fisherman, how we can save the fish and the resource. This is a very, very important point we need to say. Also, we needed aquaculture integration to be build another industry, support the amount of food which we needed for the people. And also, we needed the third point about the climate change adaptation, which is very important to make the change of the climate change will be changed at the time, will be changed to the migration of the fisheries from to warm area, because the fishery looking to the warm area from the cold is increase the temperature will be changes species and the migration to us. And the last point was the opportunity we needed regional cooperation and political about that to increase and maybe transfer technology and information for these people to be continuous through the life, to be increase the income for the people which will live about that. And we can conclusion about that as we can discuss as about overfishing. This is a challenge with governments and access market, and we can management about this challenge. How can we improve about the fish climate change, aquaculture integration? Because this is very important for the people, for the security. It is a security to save the people to be alive food for them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Hamoda, for your wonderful presentation. And with that presentation, we are ending our presentation session. And I would like to pay my thanks to all the presenters for today's presentation. Moving on to our next session is a panel discussion session. So I would like to call upon our expert panel to the stage. Professor Hamoda, please. Professor Suzanne, Dr. Kobayashi Masanori, and Honorable Dr. Hendra Yusran from Indonesia. Okay. So, again, I will reinforce myself. Please kindly keep your responses to short and sweet so that we can utilize more time for question and answer, because this session is not about only presenting facts. I think we all know the facts, what's going in small scale fisheries, what are the issues, but the point is facilitate a discussion among our audiences and presenter what we need to do with the actions on the ground. So that's why let's keep it very short and sweet. Yeah. First of all, we have our new expert panelist, Dr. Masanori Kobayashi from OPRI-SPF, and I would like to invite him for his short introduction and presentation. Thank you.
It's my pleasure to be part of this. I just wanted to highlight a point of this impact of climate change in the fishery. We generally speak about it, but we really need to break down the different parts of this impact of climate change in the fisheries. For instance, as you mentioned, we have to see whether the seawater temperature is increasing, or whether the direction of the current has been changing, whether the fish is swimming away from the warm area to the cold area. So these are some of the issues that local people are not really clear. But what they evidently tell us is that they say that there are many windy days or rainy days that make them so difficult to go out anymore. And if they cannot go out, fishermen, it means that there's no income. They have no fish to sell. So immediate and obvious impact they tell us about climate change is really indeed that they say there's an increase in the number of the rainy days or windy days that will make it difficult or prevent them from going out for the fishing. They also tell us, as speaker mentions, the mixture of different factors, and overfishing, illegal fishings, maybe also reducing the biomass fish volumes in the sea. But equity issues also comes in, as there are small-scale fishermen that say that they cannot fish because there are many medium-sized boats operating offshore, and they are suspecting that may be the reason why they are not getting a fish. And some of the medium-sized fishing vessels are rather coming from outside of the Indonesian water. The foreign vessels are operating, and it's not really clear they are also complying with these fish volumes or the quotas. So we really have to break down what are really the impacts of climate change, and what are the contributing factors of overfishing or illegal fishing. And the question is how we can really facilitate access to adaptation, as you mentioned, and also how we can really design the adaptation projects in the fishery sector in the midst of these climate change challenges. So these are some of the issues that we've been discussing with Indonesian colleague, and we hope that we can really engineer some of the human resource or leadership program or capacity development program to cope with this climate change impact in the fisheries sector, particularly in connection with the small-scale fishermen. Thank you.
Thank you, Kobayashi-san, for your very insightful point there. Yeah, that's why we termed it multidimensional impact of climate change on small-scale fisheries. It's really, in sense, multidimensional. As we call it, climate-induced secondary stressors of small-scale fisheries. Well, there are issues, and we not necessarily think that fishermen or fisher folks will understand all those multidimensional impacts. They're not their experts. They want solution. They want something on the ground so that they can sustain. It's a double-shrouded, impact for them. I call it double burden of climate change. Well, in one sense, they are fighting for changes because of climate change, because they're fighting for their lives. Actually, sea level rise, the coastal cities are getting submerged. Where they live is really a vulnerable place. That's threat for their life. Secondly, they're fighting for their economy, their life itself, what they earn from fisheries. No fish due to climate change or many things. So it's double burden for them. And yeah, there might be a lot of factors contributing to this. But we need to understand as experts what particularly actions should we, as an expert or as a scientist, should take, or as a policymaker we should take to mitigate this challenge or to provide the adaptation to the community, fishers community. So, yeah,
What I needed to make a focus about that. It should be the government should be increase awareness about the regulation which you needed to protect and to make the stock assessment to be in balanced situation, because we have another effect about the climate change. So the fishermen should be understand the regulation or how we can make a buffer zone, what is important to make a buffer zone to increase the sustainability about that. The second point we needed increase about understand what is the situation about the sea. The fisheries not live alone. We have environment to make the fishery will be accumulated to this safe environment, highly feeding environment for the fishes related to zooplankton, phytoplankton. So we needed to balance about that. So what we are looking about that, so we needed to evaluation what is the situation for example for in the Red Sea about the coral reef and which will be destroyed, and the bleaching of the coral reef related to the increase of temperature. So if this coral reef will be bleaching, we have to affect about migration, about the fisheries, about which is a special fisheries which will be very important for food and which will be for the tourists, because which will be not only about the fisherman. This is related all the tourists which will be interested to see about how diving and see the fisheries, about which the accumulation of another life under the ground in the sea. So this is the next point we needed. The third point we needed, how can transfer about technology and about the methodology to save our environment. So we needed to make a reservation or restoring about, for example, for the coral reef. So this is very important to build a program, and it will be how to can make the save the environment, marine environment, for accumulation of the fish in this area.
Thank you, Professor. Anyone wants to add the comment, please?
Would like to give some comment because one of in 2023 we have already studied with the World Bank and also with the University of British Columbia. We produced a paper what we call the hot rising waters. So this is just like to explore the multidimensional impact of the climate change. So I would like to mention here there are four at least. I think you can. We have already prepared yes, that one. So this is hot water rising. So this study in 2023. So we also, although this is like a micro study, but this is a focus on small scale fisheries. There are at least four multidimensional impact of the climate change. First, the decrease the productivity because the projected of if there is no changing in our climate situations, there will be impact of like 12 to 20% under a low scenario. So there will be lose our productivity like 30%, up to 30% if we are not do anything. And to respond that Masanori-san mentioned, there are species that impact threat by the climate change. First is sardine, mackerel, and also tuna that will be projected to face decline maximum catch in 2023, 2025, 50. And also affect the food security. The second point is economic loss. The economic loss is like the catch of potential because the catch per unit effort is really decreased, and also will be contributes also to our fishery sector. The third one is a threat of the coastal ecosystem, such as like the Professor Amma mentioned, because of destroying our coral reef and also like seagrass and ecosystem. So there is no place for breeding and also to become what we call nursery ground for the fishing. And then there will be no generation for a fish like that. And the last point is about increased vulnerability. We found that based on that study, among of 11 what we call this fisheries management area of Indonesia, at least there are 3 fisheries management area impacted by the climate change. First is 713, 714, and 718. This is area like in eastern of Indonesia, that impact of the climate change. So yeah, I agree with the Professor Rama mentioned also, we have some program, and even Indonesia is also changing the policy in the catch fisheries right now. So we're shifting from input control, output control. Previously we just control the numbers of small scale or number of boat. Now the catch, we control the catch. So because we want to understand how much the maximum sustainable yield and the total allowable catch. And the second point is what we would like to impose our policy where the resources came from. It should be get many benefit from that one. So they cannot land it, the fisheries catch from East Indonesia, land it to Java, unless they land it first in East Indonesia. So, and then also, I think the insurance really one solution as well. But right now we just insurance for, accident. We provide the insurance for the fishermen. But for the parametric insurance for a small scale, it can be an option, but can be costly. But I know how to reduce this. I don't know whether we can access or we can unlock the adaptation fund to funding this program such as like that. So with that, I finish my conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. do you want to add? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Uh, I just want to add a little bit small things after all of those nice recommendations and discussion had been done, but we need to have or to enhance our climate resilience strategies, and this needs international cooperation. We cannot do it just in small places or in certain countries, but to have a global strategy for helping the resilience of this small scale fisheries, and this will not be happened or not be succeeded without a engagement with the local communities. So in this point, we need to engage all the local fisheries communities for small scales and involve them in taking the decision and make their life, because this is their life and how this is their communities, and they know more about their needs and what their future should be. And for this, we need also to invest in the infrastructures. So for small scale fisheries, the infrastructures is we need more boats that could be supportive from the storm surges that destroy their fleets every winter. And also they need to invest more in the fishing gears to be more sufficient for their shallow water fishing. And at the same time, I want to talk also about the implementing the science management. And as we say at the beginning, the strategy must include the reducing of the byfishing and the overfishing that we all suffer from. Because we are in the COP, so we are talking about the climate actions we need for the small scale fisheries, and this includes the impacts that affect this area, like the sea level rise, the acidification, and also the height in the temperatures and the extreme weathers. All of this could be overcome by having a climate action and the strategies for the resilience as we first mentioned. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Suzanne, for your wonderful, insightful comments. We are running out of time, so we will be quickly moving to the question and answer sessions from the audiences. I have a question before the audiences have question. How many of you like seafood on your plates? Well, then raise questions how we can secure our seafood on the plate for tomorrow and for our coming generation. Please, the floor is yours. Please feel free to ask questions to our expert panelists.
Yeah, I've heard of African small-scale fisheries, well defined. But we would like to know what small is for Indonesia's fisheries. What is small? In addition to that, we have a common problem for small-scale fisheries worldwide, where access to advisories in short-term forecasts in terms of adverse climatic events, they are not all that equal for all small-scale fisheries. So in this study that you've been doing in the Indonesia and African context, is there any consideration to include the climate variability studies?
Yeah, actually, we also did a study in Africa, and I was mentioning that we are Tunis 2022, and I was in Senegal, Morocco, and South Africa this year and last year. And there are some complaints from the small-scale fishermen. For instance, they say that they are not allowed to export some of the fish commodities to a particular market because they don't have a capacity to comply with sanitary standards required by the importing countries. Some also argue that because of the oil price rise, the government started giving a subsidy. But subsidy is available only for the medium or large-scale fishermen and not available for small-scale fishermen. There are some others like small-scale fishermen's small boats. The number of the operation days that they can operate is rather limited compared to the large-scale fishing boats. So, as I briefly explained in the context of Indonesia, same analogy can be applied to Africa. The small-scale fishermen are adversely affected and are placed in a disadvantageous positions. Question is, how can we really help small-scale fishermen to cope with these climate change challenges? So this is the one example we raised to Indonesian is to set up, for instance, artificial reef that contains like discarded oyster shells that can serve as a spawning ground, and the shellfish or and the fish can lay eggs. And that kind of technologies, I think a Belgian colleague was speaking 2 days ago in Belgian pavilions. So these are some of the examples that we can try to do as a kind of nature positive in the fishery sector as a way to make adaptation to climate change.
Yeah. I'll again remind and reinforce the thing. Please, let's keep our answers short. I know it's difficult, it's a complex. It's not easy to answer in a couple of words, but yeah, to foster more discussion and more questions, we can. Yeah, please.
Just want to respond to this. How small Indonesia? Small means like Indonesia is like some from what do you call this? Substance. So daily one day fishing up to the normally it's like less than 5 GT gross tonnage. So the big size of your boat. So they need to report. They just register to our fisheries office, and normally it's only 1 day fishing. Maximums like maybe 2 or 3 days fishing, days for the one. And I think for climate forecast right now in Indonesia, we have already issued what we call this 2 weeks every. In 1 week, we produce 2 times map, what we call this indicative map of where the fish came from. We will be allocated, something like that. So based on the 3 parametric, we calculated from chlorophyll and then so on. So this idea just like to reduce the catch per unit effort for the small fisheries. But sometimes they are just using like a cooperative or organization, and then they can translate the map into the simple and understandable language for the small-scale fisheries. So they cannot, they will know, not exactly, but they will have goals where they can catch the fish, for example, today or the next or for the next day, something like that. I hope you understand what I said.
Thank you. Do you have any other questions? Next questions, please. Oh, you want to?
Yeah,
okay.
I needed to. Some point is very important. As you know, for the forecasting of the fisheries, if you have needed to stop and overfishing also, we have a forecasting, and we needed to stop also the overfishing. What we are looking for the fisherman, he is a poor man, he not a rich man, very rich, to be not catch the fish for 1 month or 2 months, related to the forecasting and related to making a buffer zone and related to increase the stock assessment. We have low stock assessment in the sea, especially, for example, in the Mediterranean. So what we are looking for that, we need an integrated aquaculture. We needed to get another resources for the fisherman to increase and working and make alive for him to continuous and sustainable. So for that, it will be needed management, and will be the government inform how can support him and how can increase the income in this time about the forecasting about that. Thank you.
Yeah, let's move on to the next question. Yeah, here we have one.
Hi there. Just a very quick question. You mentioned that small-scale fisheries, you kind of classify that by boats, but I'm thinking from a Brazilian context. Quite often, some of the small-scale fishers may be mangroves and people collecting crabs. They're not doing that in a boat. or people going out and collecting pteridinid worms, or perhaps maybe fishing from the beach, which I saw in your picture there, or perhaps hedged balf, so they're collecting directly from the river or the estuaries. How is that included in some of these metrics that you're classifying there?
Yeah, as I mentioned, this is starting from subsistence fishermen up to the 5 gross tonnage fishermen. So that's include the people that collected, crabs or any mussels from mangrove or any in the shore. So like this can be classified as small scales in Indonesia. So that's what we call the numbers is like almost 90% of workforce of fishermen in Indonesia. So we classify it like that. But normally for our program, a boat is what indicator we have to give to the fishermen. So yeah, such things like fishing vessels or not fishing gears and any apparatus that will help them to catch more. So.
I just want to confirm the same thing because this is what we also had in our case study in Africa, because we had different kinds of fishing, including fishing with hands and, as you say, like the clams and the crabs. They didn't need any boats, but to know and to make the assessment, we make this according to the number of boats and the number of fishermen. So this is something have to be included in the equation for our assessment studies. I just want to add something about the previous question about the climate actions and how we could help the fishermen because to overcome these problems. One of the ideas we already had is, as Professor Hamouda just mentioned, we have to work more for aquaculture, but at the same time, we use our hatcheries. We grow because the problem is we lost the natural nursery areas like the mangroves and the coral reefs due to climate actions, as you all know. So we have to find another solution, which is the hatcheries. We brought up the small fries inside the hatcheries and then release them in open water, either in sea or in lakes. And by this, we try to improve and increase the number of the offsprings of the fisheries. This was another idea we used.
I think we'll cut short and then we'll move for next question. We can further communicate later on. Do you have any other questions? Further questions? Okay, I think we don't have. Yeah, please, Kobayashi-san.
No, I just wanted to add to this small-scale subsistence fisheries. In the case of some countries like Caribbean, they argue that there are some shellfish decreasing or disappearing. And people don't know whether it's really overfishing or the impact of warm seawater. In the case of Japan, seagrass is disappearing. They say that it's because of the seawater warming. And it's not that the seagrass doesn't grow in the warm water, but it's more to do with like a predator fish that used to die in the winter because of the cold water. Now they survive in the wintertime and they ingest this seagrass seaweed. And because of the disappearance of the seagrass seaweed, now the abalones is not prevalent in some areas. Shellfish disappearing. These are the kind of impacts that we would like to see whether it is really the impact of the seawater warming or it is really the combination of the seawater warming and overfishing. So these are the kind of baseline information required for us to do adaptation activities.
Thank you, Kobayashi-san. Do you have any other questions? Seems like everyone has. Oh, please.
I'm sorry.
One last question.
Thank you. I'm Sakaguchi from JICA. I have a question to Indonesian speakers. And so now the Indonesian government restore to accelerate or restore the mangrove forest by the Ministry of Fisheries and other agencies. And so it must increase the fishery resources there. And so maybe from you, Kakape. So do you have also collaboration such as assessment of fishery resources after the restoration of the mangrove forest in Indonesia, collaborating with the Ministry of Fisheries?
I'm sorry, we have 2 minutes for the response, please.
Yeah. Okay, so we do the stock assessment based like yearly basis, okay? So we calculate it based on the fish landed and also calculate it based on the fisheries resources in that area. So we calculated maximum yield about that. To respond for the mangrove, for example, after restoration. So there are some studies, but this is like a micro studies, not like the whole Indonesia. So there is a correlation, strong correlation. If we have a strong mangrove rehabilitation project, it will be increase the numbers of fish will be there. So, sums of fisheries, and then in fact we just like already apply what we call silver fisheries, for example. So we maintain the mangrove. I think the colleague like Barrio try to promote like that. We maintain the mangrove, but we can also use the mangrove as a for fisheries pond, for example. The taste of like shrimp and also fish will be tasty compared to like intensive ponds, for example. They take a long time, but I hope I answer your question. Thank you very much for it.
Okay, so we are running out of time, and as we are concluding this session, let us reflect on the resilience, determination, and enduring spirit of millions of fishers who rely, and millions of people who relies on small-scale fisheries. These fishers are not just economic backbone; they are lifeline of our community. They are a keeper of the tradition and vital part of our shared heritage. So let's work together. Let's save our fisheries. Let's save our food. As we know, Sustainable Development Goal 14, Sustainable Development Goal 2, Sustainable Development Goal 3, 13, we have to work on it. We have to save our planet. We have to save our humanity. We have to save our food as well. So thank you again. Thank you everyone for joining our sessions, and have a good day. Thank you.
Very much.